Welcome to Whispers and Confessions. There might be a twist waiting, so please make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's begin right away.
I'm 50 years old, and my wife Ashley is 47. Our two kids are both in college now, living independently in different states. After years of having a full house, it's just the two of us in our apartment. During those busy years of raising our children, I often dreamed about having time alone with Ashley again. But now that we're empty nesters, there's an unexpected loneliness that's crept in. Even though I stay busy with work, the quiet evenings at home feel hollow somehow. What's more challenging is that our marriage has lost its spark. It's grown distant and cold over the years. We barely talk anymore, and physical intimacy has become a distant memory. While there's no animosity between us, that special connection we once had seems to have faded away. I've been telling myself this is just how marriages evolve, but deep down, I keep wondering if there's a way to rekindle what we've lost. It hurts to see Ashley laughing and having a great time with her friends at lunch. I can't help but think, does she find more joy with them than with me? I get it though. I do the same thing, finding small escapes in coffee shop visits or work gatherings on weekends. Neither of us wants a divorce, and from the outside, everything looks fine. But the reality is, we've become like two strangers barely speaking during dinner. That's what life had become for Ashley and me. Then one day, coming home from work, I noticed a "Welcome New Residents" announcement on the building's bulletin board with a couple's names. I didn't think much of it at the time and just headed up to our place. The next morning, while taking out the trash, I ran into this woman in the elevator, or rather, this incredibly sophisticated young woman who immediately caught my attention. She had this gorgeous brown wavy hair and moved so gracefully, like someone straight off a magazine cover. Standing about 5 feet 7 inches, she had a stunning figure with perfect curves that her black dress accentuated beautifully. Every step she took was graceful, almost like a runway model. Her makeup was subtle, but her striking features and flawless complexion were impossible to miss. There was something captivating about her eyes, intelligent but with a hint of mystery. Even at that early hour, with minimal makeup, she was breathtaking. We exchanged quick hellos as we passed each other, and I nodded politely, thinking she must be in show business or something. Later that day, Ashley told me, "Hey, you know that new couple that moved in? The wife's name is Jessica, didn't catch her husband's name. I met her yesterday when I was dropping off some paperwork for the building board. She's absolutely gorgeous and only 37. 37? My mind went back to our elevator encounter. While she could easily pass for early 30s, knowing she was 37 made more sense. Still younger than us, but man, what a knockout. Ashley mentioned, she's got this model vibe that's almost intimidating, but then added, but she seems really down to earth. Little did I know then how significant this would become. A few weeks later, Ashley came home buzzing with excitement. You won't believe this. I ran into Jessica at the building board meeting and we totally clicked. Apparently, the building management committee was planning some events, and Ashley had joined this year. Jessica, despite being relatively new, had volunteered to help out. Her husband seemed nice too, though he wasn't around much, probably tied up with work, while Jessica was really involved in the community. She's actually in her second marriage, and her husband is too. They're close to our age, so we have a lot in common, Ashley mentioned casually. I tried to play it cool, responding with a simple, "That's great." But something stirred inside me at that moment. I felt this undeniable attraction to Jessica. Just thinking about our brief encounter in the elevator made my pulse quicken, feelings I hadn't experienced in years. Don't get me wrong, I'm committed to Ashley and would never want to hurt her. But I can't deny that having such an attractive woman nearby has awakened something in me, especially given how distant things have become with Ashley. I found myself looking forward to possible run-ins with Jessica on my way home. The few times we did cross paths in the lobby or entrance, even though we just exchanged quick hellos, I'd get butterflies in my stomach. Her expensive perfume lingered in the hallway, making my heart skip a beat and transporting me back to my younger days. I couldn't help but envy her husband, though I found it puzzling that anyone living with such a stunning wife could ever feel their relationship growing stale. The thought of waking up next to such a beautiful woman every morning and sharing life's intimate moments with her. Yet catching Samuel's expression, I could tell he was grappling with the same relationship issues I was. It made me wonder if even the most picture-perfect couples eventually lose that magical spark. My cheeks burned with shame. These weren't appropriate thoughts for a married man with a family. I felt guilty for harboring these feelings when I should have been focused on being a good neighbor. I kept telling myself to concentrate on nurturing my relationship with Ashley instead. But despite my self-scolding, I found myself watching as Jessica walked away, her slim figure always perfectly showcased in designer dresses and tailored pantsuits. Her striking features and those fleeting moments of eye contact left me spellbound. I tried to rationalize it, telling myself, this is nothing. They're just neighbors I happen to admire, while burying myself in work during the day and spending quiet evenings at home with Ashley, mostly zoning out in front of the TV or scrolling through my phone. Then one evening, everything changed. I walked through my front door to find Jessica and her husband chatting with Ashley in our living room. I was so taken aback I could barely get out my usual "I'm home." The scene was straight out of a dinner party, wine and cheese laid out on the coffee table, Ashley sitting on the sofa next to an unfamiliar man and Jessica. Ashley jumped up with a warm smile, saying, "Welcome home. Let me introduce you to Jessica and her husband Samuel. We had a board meeting today, and they stopped by afterward for drinks." Though caught off guard, I managed a polite "nice to meet you." Samuel responded with a friendly, "sorry to drop in unannounced," while Jessica flashed that elegant smile of hers and said, "Hello again. We met in the elevator, right?" My mind was spinning, but I made my way to the living room. Ashley pulled me aside to help with snacks in the kitchen, where I whispered, "What's going on?" She explained apologetically, "After the meeting, everyone was in such a good mood. We decided to have drinks here. They arrived before you got home. I hope that's okay?" "It's fine, just unexpected. We'll roll with it," I replied, trying to keep my cool despite my racing heart at Jessica's presence. Back in the living room, Samuel offered me a glass of red wine with a "care to join us?" I accepted with thanks, and Jessica, making herself comfortable on our sofa, mentioned, "Actually, we're both in our second marriages." I nodded, saying, "Ah, I see. Well, our kids are already off to college." Ashley chimed in with a laugh. "We're first-timers, but with the empty nest, it gets pretty quiet around here." Jessica nodded knowingly. "I get that. Even without kids, life as a couple can fall into such a routine." Samuel added, "Exactly. Lately, we've been feeling like something's missing, trying to find ways to shake things up." The conversation flowed easily as we discovered how much we had in common. As we polished off the wine, the discussion grew more personal. "This is so nice, having drinks at home like this," Jessica said gracefully. "You'll have to come over to our place next time. It gets lonely being just the two of us." Ashley enthusiastically replied, "That would be great. It'll make apartment living so much more fun if we can get together like this." I nodded in agreement, but inside, I was completely mesmerized by Jessica's charm. My pulse quickened every time she smiled or made a subtle gesture. The evening seemed to fly by. The impromptu party wrapped up around 10 p.m., with Jessica and Samuel apologizing for staying so late. After they left, Ashley happily remarked, "We've made some great new friends." I nodded in agreement, but my mind was so full of Jessica that sleep eluded me that night. From then on, our paths began crossing with Jessica and Samuel more and more frequently. Our paths kept crossing in the elevator and common areas, where we'd exchange casual small talk. Through building board meetings and evening dinners together, the four of us gradually became closer friends. Then one evening, The conversation took an unexpected turn when Samuel casually dropped a comment about partner swapping. These dinner dates are great, aren't they? Some couples take it to the next level. Jessica's response was a mix of nervous laughter and intrigue. Oh my goodness, that kind of talk makes my pulse race, though it's a little scary to think about. At first, we treated it as playful banter. Ashley and I dismissed it with a, that's not really our thing. But when Jessica hinted, well, we're all consenting adults here, who knows what could happen? Ashley's reaction caught me off guard. Though she quickly said, oh no, that would be too much for us. Her flushed cheeks and slight smile suggested curiosity. The whole conversation left me with a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. A few weeks later, Jessica and Samuel invited us over for a house party. Their place was stunning, a beautifully decorated apartment with an open-concept living room. While Jessica busied herself in the kitchen preparing wine and appetizers, Samuel and Ashley settled onto the living room couch. When I offered to help in the kitchen, Jessica flashed that radiant smile of hers and said, don't worry about a thing. Tonight's about relaxing and having fun. My heart skipped a beat at that smile. As the wine flowed freely, the conversation grew more intimate, and Samuel and Jessica opened up about their previous marriages. Samuel swirled his wine thoughtfully before sharing. Finding out my ex was having an affair with a colleague hit me hard at first. Looking back, though, we'd already grown apart emotionally. Jessica chimed in, my story's pretty similar. My ex fell for someone at work. But honestly, our marriage was already running on empty. We'd stopped putting in the effort, and eventually, those special feelings just faded away. Jessica leaned forward, her expression serious as she continued, you know what I've learned? Honesty is everything in a marriage. The minute you start keeping secrets or hiding your feelings, that's when cracks start to form. She paused, taking another sip of wine. Everyone talks about the 7-year itch like it's inevitable, but what really matters is how you handle it. You've got to keep the lines of communication open and be willing to try new things together. And I don't mean anything crazy, just something to keep that spark alive. Samuel nodded in agreement. As the night wore on and inhibitions lowered, the conversation became increasingly intimate. Then Samuel dropped the bombshell. Hey, since we've all gotten so close, would you guys ever consider swapping partners? I nearly choked on my drink, while Ashley's fork clattered against her plate. Jessica gave me this knowing smile that sent shivers down my spine. While I'd secretly entertained the thought, I never imagined it becoming a real possibility. When I glanced at Ashley, she met my eyes with a look that seemed to ask, are we really considering this? My mind raced. Is she actually okay with this? Have we really reached this point? I felt completely torn. While guilt gnawed at me, my attraction to Jessica was becoming impossible to ignore. Images of my decade-long marriage with Ashley flashed through my mind, from our first date to our wedding day, to countless shared moments. Yet here I was, consumed by desire for another woman. Ashley's reaction only added to my confusion. I could see a mix of apprehension and excitement in her expression. The thought of her with another man sent waves of jealousy through me, but paradoxically, that jealousy only intensified my arousal. What am I feeling? Is this real attraction or just lust? Jessica's captivating smile haunted my thoughts. Could this be our escape from the mundane routine our marriage had become? Or were we about to make a decision that would shatter everything we'd built together? These questions raced through my mind, but the wine had already clouded my better judgment. Caught up in the intensity of the moment, we crossed that line. The partner swap became reality. That night, I found myself with Jessica, while Ashley disappeared into another room with Samuel. Samuel casually gestured, saying, make yourself at home, as Jessica and I moved toward one of the rooms. I caught a final glimpse of Ashley in the living room, her eyes meeting Samuel's. Once inside, Jessica quietly closed the door and whispered, we can take things slow, no pressure. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. When I managed to stammer out, "I'm okay. Just never done this before," she gave me a reassuring smile and said, "Don't worry, we're all consenting adults here." She took my hand and guided me to the bed. Though my mind was spinning, I couldn't resist her magnetic presence. The thought of what might be happening in the other room sent waves of conflicting emotions through me, jealousy mixed with an unexpected thrill. There she was, the Jessica I'd been secretly admiring all this time. The surreal nature of the moment wasn't lost on me. With trembling hands and racing thoughts, I began to undress her, feeling like a teenager again in my nervousness. Her figure was breathtaking, a perfect blend of grace and sensuality. Her skin was flawless, her curves perfectly proportioned. Her long, toned legs seemed to go on forever, creating elegant lines that any designer would dream of dressing. I found myself completely mesmerized, unable to form words. The soft lighting cast gentle shadows that accentuated her beauty like a Renaissance painting. The graceful curve of her neck flowing into her shoulders was particularly striking. Her skin felt impossibly soft beneath my fingertips, and her subtle perfume created an intoxicating atmosphere. Every aspect of her exuded sophistication and class. She then cupped my face in her hands, leaned in close, and gave me a gentle smile. "Just breathe," she whispered, noticing my ragged breathing. Her lips met mine, her tongue exploring with expert precision. She took control, her hands moving across my body with practiced skill. Her touch was simultaneously gentle and passionate, and I found myself completely at her mercy. The way she knew exactly where and how to touch me left me breathless. Her experienced movements were pure ecstasy. My hands shook as they explored her perfect breasts. They responded to every touch, sending my pulse racing even faster. Each time my fingers traced her silk-like skin, she rewarded me with soft sighs. The intimacy of the moment was overwhelming in its intensity. When I ventured to taste her most intimate areas, her body quivered with pleasure, filling the room with soft moans. Even in the heights of passion, thoughts of Ashley invaded my mind, bringing waves of guilt and jealousy that paradoxically heightened my arousal. The muffled sounds from the next room only added to my internal turmoil. The knowledge that my wife was with another man sent my head spinning. These conflicting emotions, guilt, betrayal, and inexplicable excitement, only fueled my passion further. When we finally joined as one, our shared pleasure filled the room. Each movement brought waves of ecstasy as our bodies found their rhythm together. Our passionate sounds created an intimate symphony, building in intensity as we approached our peak. The climax that overtook me was unlike anything I'd experienced in years. Pleasure coursed through my body like electricity. In that moment, all my doubts and guilt vanished, leaving only pure sensation. I felt decades younger, completely lost in our shared passion. We remained entangled, reaching new heights of pleasure again and again. Like new lovers discovering each other for the first time, we found perfect harmony in multiple intense climaxes. As the night wore on, our energy seemed only to grow stronger. Jessica's expressions and sounds, so different from anything I'd seen before, created an almost dreamlike experience. But when it was over, reality came crashing back with overwhelming guilt mixed with lingering pleasure. Jessica simply smiled and murmured, "That was amazing." The next morning, I made my way to the living room after a night of tossing and turning. Samuel was already there, casually sipping his coffee at the table. When Ashley appeared, our eyes met briefly before she mumbled an awkward, "Good morning." I managed to stammer out a response, but my head was spinning. Looking at my wife, I felt an overwhelming mix of jealousy and guilt wash over me. The thought of her spending the night with another man made my stomach churn, while my own actions with Jessica weighed heavily on my conscience. I could see the same tumultuous emotions reflected in Ashley's downcast eyes as we both struggled to maintain eye contact. When Samuel asked if we'd slept well, I couldn't find the words to respond. Jessica emerged from her room with a bright smile, cheerfully greeting everyone and thanking us for the evening. The casual morning after atmosphere felt surreal, like I was watching a scene from someone else's life. The reality of what we'd done, actually participating in partner swapping, kept echoing in my mind. We made our exit after a quick breakfast, maintaining an uncomfortable silence. The Samuel's invitation to do this again sometime hung in the air as I managed a noncommittal nod, desperately trying to mask my inner turmoil. The silence persisted long after we got home. That night, Ashley broke the tension with an unexpected question. How was it? When I played dumb, she cut right to the chase. Was Jessica amazing? I could only deflect with, what about you? The conversation faded due to our shared discomfort, and we went to bed without another word. The awkwardness lingered for days as we processed the shock of what we'd done. I was caught in an emotional storm of jealousy, guilt, and anxiety about Ashley's feelings. But ironically, our intimate life took an unexpected turn. Our previously stagnant sex life began to rekindle after that night. The strange cocktail of jealousy and possessiveness brought us closer, sparking displays of affection we hadn't shown in years. I think seeing each other with different partners had awakened something dormant in us. Plus, the experience made us realize that despite everything, we found the most comfort and security in each other. These emotional revelations deepened our connection in ways we hadn't anticipated. We rediscovered each other like newlyweds, experiencing a passionate renaissance that reminded us of our early days together. Our heightened emotional awareness made us more attuned to each other's needs and feelings, ultimately strengthening our bond. In the aftermath, Ashley deliberately distanced herself from Jessica and Samuel. When Jessica texted asking us over again, Ashley politely declined with a, "We're pretty swamped right now. It might be a while." I felt relieved, knowing that multiple encounters could lead us down a dangerous path. Then one Saturday, while returning from the convenience store alone, I ran into Jessica. She looked as stunning as ever. "Long time no see. Been keeping your distance?" she said with that signature smile. "Oh, yeah, just been crazy busy." I fumbled. She moved closer, lowering her voice. "I'd love for all of us to get together again. Is Ashley not into it?" My heart raced as I replied, "It's not that she's against it. That night was just intense, and she's still processing everything." Jessica's face fell slightly as she responded, "We never meant to push you into anything. I guess it can be pretty overwhelming if you're not used to it." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. Had they done this before? Were there others? While these questions swirled in my mind, Jessica added with a subtle smirk, "Let us know if you change your minds." I still think about that night. My pulse quickened. This is entering dangerous territory. But God, it's tempting. Fighting my confusion, I muttered, "I'll think about it," before practically running back to my apartment. I didn't mention the encounter to Ashley that night, but it had stirred up something deep inside me that I couldn't ignore. I've been grappling with these feelings ever since. Part of me craves just one more night, but I'm worried about Ashley's reaction and afraid that a second time could send us down a slippery slope. If we're not careful, we could end up destroying everything we've built together. Our intimate life experienced a remarkable revival after that night. Recently, Ashley surprised me by suggesting we share some wine, which led to one of our most passionate encounters in ages. While the experience was incredible, I found myself feeling guilty about thoughts of Jessica, as these forbidden images invaded my mind during intimate moments with my wife. I can't control my physical reactions when these feelings of jealousy and desire surface. Sometimes I catch myself wondering if Ashley's mind wanders to Samuel during our moments together, and that thought sends waves of jealousy coursing through me. We're probably both struggling with similar conflicting emotions. Late at night, I often find myself pondering deep questions about the true meaning of marriage, but answers remain elusive. This is our story, how Ashley and I, trying to reignite our relationship after becoming empty nesters, ended up doing something we never thought we'd do by swapping partners with our neighbors. The aftermath brought unexpected changes to our marriage. Our intimate life became more vibrant, and we started talking more openly than we had in years. Yet I can't shake these dangerous thoughts about Jessica, and the mix of jealousy and guilt regarding Ashley still weighs heavily on my mind. For now, we're steering clear of any future encounters with Jessica and Samuel. Ashley's made it clear she's not interested, and I have my own serious doubts. But Jessica's parting words, "Contact us if you feel like it," linger in my mind. And I worry that if we ever took that path again, we might find ourselves in deeper than before. The future remains uncertain. Maybe this will remain a one-time mistake, or perhaps we'll find ourselves drawn back into that world. Through all of this, we've discovered that our relationship still has plenty of life left in it. While it's strange that such an unconventional experience became the spark that reignited two people who had grown distant, I believe we need to build on this momentum. At 50 and 47, with our children grown and gone, we're facing decisions about how to shape the next chapter of our lives together. Though partner swapping goes against every conventional norm, I can't deny that it made us more conscious of each other in ways we hadn't been for years. Perhaps one day we'll look back on this as nothing more than an ill-advised adventure. But having crossed that threshold, even once, there's no way to predict where life might lead us. For now, we maintain our routine, sharing our bed each night, having dinner together, spending weekends at the local mall. Yet beneath this normal exterior lies our dangerous secret. As I carry this burden, I constantly remind myself to hold on to Ashley, to keep her close. Despite all the complications and contradictions, we're still husband and wife, bound together in this complex journey we call marriage.